Hey guys, so I feel like this video is gonna be extremely all over the place because I don't have like a set idea of what I'm specifically like the topics I'm gonna touch on. So if I'm all over the place, you're just gonna have to excuse me. But if you're new here, because I did recently gain a couple subscribers from my last video, which was my birth vlog. So hey guys, thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe after you watch this video because you're probably gonna like me. But anyways, no, I'm kidding. So as most of you know, if you subscribe to me, I recently gave birth a little over 2 weeks ago. And if I look hot in this video, it's because it's hot in here and I turned the air off to do this video because it's loud. So excuse me if I look hot. But so as most of y'all know, I gave birth a little over 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago. And if you see me looking down, I was just looking at my phone. But and it was very interesting. My entire pregnancy was very interesting, and my birth experience was interesting to me because I feel like they were two completely different worlds. Whereas when women give birth, they usually tell you like it's the worst pain in the world, it was horrible, something traumatic happened. Like, I've always heard all these horror stories about giving birth. So giving birth for me was very, like, before I gave birth, I was very like scared. I'm like, okay, I know this is gonna hurt. Like, all these women like every woman in the world will tell you that birth is the worst pain. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the worst pain in the world. I'm gonna prepare myself, you know, like try to get ready for it. I have a lot of friends that are pregnant at the same time as me, whether it's before me or after me. So the women that gave birth before me, I'm all texting them, asking them like, how was it, how did it feel, this and that, right? So this is why I'm here with y'all to give y'all the tea on how my birth experience went. If you watch the video, you'll see like I kind of showed you kind of like how I was dealing with the pain aspect of it and everything like that. But I just want to go into more depth because I feel like the video doesn't even accurately represent how I was truthfully feeling. So let's get into it. So basically, I went into labor, or I began labor at about 1 in the morning on July 17th, and it was not, it didn't hurt that bad. Let's put it like that. It was not painful. It was just more of like an aching sense, just like when you get your period. It felt like that, but very mild. And it was just kind of more annoying, and it just wouldn't let me sleep. So I could have honestly began labor before that, because the previous 2 days before I gave birth, I did have that same aching feeling in my back, but it was very mild, and I would go back to sleep like after 5 minutes. Like, it would be hurting for like 5 minutes, a little bit. Like, it's not even really, I can't call it hurt because it didn't hurt. It was more of just like an ache. So it ached for 5 minutes, and then after the 5 minutes was up, I was able to go back to sleep, and that was that. But that night, as you can tell from the video, I was in labor, so it didn't stop. So it started with that, and it was very spaced out, and it was fine. It was extremely tolerable, which is why I was just Googling the whole night that I was up, just what's going on in my body. Like, this is uncomfortable, but it does not feel like labor. But the amount of contractions I was having was more related to labor rather than a Braxton Hicks. A Braxton Hicks, everything that they were saying that would make a Braxton Hicks go away, they're like, oh, Braxton Hicks, if you move, it'll tend to go away. If you like let time pass, it'll go away. It wasn't going away with time passing, and they was like kind of on top of each other. The contractions were on top of each other, and if I moved, it did not help. So I'm like, is this a Braxton Hicks or am I in labor? Like, I was so confused. So as we know, I was actually in labor, but because it did not hurt, I was just convinced that I wasn't in labor. So as time goes on, you'll see me, well, in the other video, you'll see me crying by the time I'm headed to the hospital. Now, I was not crying because I was in pain. It was more mentally. Now, I'm a crybaby. I cry all the time. And then being pregnant, of course, I'm gonna cry even more. Like, everything makes me emotional as a regular human. So being pregnant, it just made me even more emotional. So I was crying more of an emotional standpoint. Like, I was kind of fed up, because I had been having contractions for, at that point, what, 4 hours, if not longer. And I was just over it. Like, like mentally I was just tired. And I'm the type of person, like, if I don't get sleep, I can't deal with the world. I can't make it. I lose my mind and I go crazy. So the fact that I was not able to sleep the entire night from, well, not the entire night, but from 1 a.m. until that time, like, was really disturbing me. And then the fact that it was like this constant aching pain that was just bothering me. And so it had got more intense by the time I had gotten the car to go to the hospital, but it wasn't, I still wouldn't call it like the worst pain of my life. Like, people tell me like, oh, like breaking a bone, or like labor is like breaking 50 bones or something like that. And I feel like breaking a bone would have been a lot worse than what I was experiencing. So it didn't hurt, it just was extremely frustrating because it wouldn't let up. Like, when I tell you my contractions were happening every 2 minutes, every 1 minute, like, it was just back to back to back. As soon as I felt some type of relief, it was like I just had to deal with it again. And it wasn't, again, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I could have kept going, but why feel pain if you don't have to? Like, I don't think that pain is something that is gonna make me feel proud I gave birth without an epidural, because, like, I don't know, women have their reasons and that's fine, but I'm not one of those women that are like, I need to feel the pain to feel the whole experience. No, I'd rather not feel the pain and actually mentally be there and be with my baby and experience my baby being born. Because I just feel like it's more enjoyable that way. I've heard women say like they didn't get an epidural and they wish that they would have, because they were just so in pain that by the time the baby came out, it wasn't even able to like enjoy the fact that their baby was there because it hurt so bad. And I will say, pushing out a baby, now that sounds painful, and I'm happy I didn't feel that. I never in a million years will want to feel that, because it's so sensitive down there, and like, you're being stretched, like dealing with the postpartum part of birth and your body is enough. Like, I couldn't imagine actually feeling my daughter come out of me. That's a little bit too much. But oh, and if you see that white thing in the corner, that's my daughter. She's right here in the mama room. While I'm talking, she just knocked out, so I'm like, let me just film a video while I have some time. But anyways, back to my birth. So I get to the hospital, as y'all see in the video, and between contractions, I'm literally fine. I could talk to people like this, I can breathe, I can, like, it's just like, I'm fine. It didn't hurt that bad, but once I had it, it like kind of just stops you from anything. Am I too loud? Sorry. But so it just kind of stops you. Like, I feel like contractions don't hurt, but it just made it so you can't feel anything else. Like, you can't really breathe, and you have to, like, the whole time you're trying to remember to breathe so that you and your baby aren't dying. And it's just, that's really the only way I can explain it. But so between contractions, I was fine. I just felt like mentally was really the only reason why I was crying in that video and things of that sort. And I just wanted to come on here and share that, because a lot of women are really scared of giving birth, which 100% you should be, because especially if it's something you've never experienced before, it's 1000% scary, because anything new is scary for the most part, like, especially when it involves pain. So it's like, there's no really other way to feel about it. But I just want to let women know that if, like, your mind is in the game, like, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be 100% okay. If you believe in getting an epidural, do it, and do it as soon as you can, because there's no reason to wait. Why feel the pain longer if you already know you, in the end result, you don't want to feel the pain? And I feel like a lot of women that are kind of flip-flopping between going 100% natural and getting an epidural, I feel like if you feel like you're gonna get to the end and you are gonna give up, what was the pain all before that for, if you're just gonna get an epidural in the end anyways? Like, so I would just say get it from the beginning. And that was another thing for me. I had heard through YouTube videos and reading articles and stuff like that, and maybe they do it different at different hospitals, but I had heard that some places, if you get an epidural, it might wear off by the time that it's time to actually push. And that was the first question I asked the nurse when she came in, and she was like, do you want an epidural? And I'm like, is it gonna wear off by the time I give birth? Because I felt like I was still really early in labor. By the time I had got to the hospital, I was 2 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, that's not even that far along. But I don't want to have to deal with contractions if I don't have to. I hadn't slept all night, and like I said, I go crazy when I don't sleep, and my main focus at that point was like, I need to get some rest. So I'm like, I want it, and I want it now so I can take a nap before I have to push a baby out of me, but I don't want it to wear off. And she was like, no, it doesn't wear off. What they do is they stick a little tiny tube in your back and in your spine, and it will constantly feed the medicine into your body, so that way if it does start to wear off, you can push a button and it'll feed more medicine into your body, and that way you won't feel it. So I'm like, sign me up, let's go. I don't want to feel nothing, let's do it. So by the time I get admitted, as soon as I get admitted into the hospital, for real, I got my epidural. Like, the doctor came in and did it within, like, I think less than 20 minutes. He literally came in within like probably 10-15 minutes of me getting admitted. And then so I want to talk about getting the epidural. So it felt very weird. If you don't know, I know that, like, I watched my mom give birth 6 years ago to my little brother, so I kind of knew like what kind of went on, but of course you can't feel it yourself, so you don't really know. But so basically what happens is the doctor comes in, he has you hold a pillow, and you're pregnant, so it's kind of hard to do, but they have you hunch forward so that they can see your spine very well, and they tell you you have to stay very still. And he eventually well, whatever, so I'm hunching forward and holding the pillow, but I'm still having contractions at this time. And he warns me, he's like, I need you, if you have a contraction, to not move. Now, being in this position while having a contraction, that was extremely hard to do. Like, and right before he started, like, I felt one coming on, and I'm just like, please wait, because just let me get this contraction out, because I don't think I'll be able to be still if you're poking me in my spine while I'm having a contraction. I just don't think that's a good combination. So I'm like, please just wait. So he waits, and I have the contraction, and they go by really fast, like a couple seconds, like maybe 30 seconds or so, and it's over. So while I was okay, so first they numb your back, so they stick something in your back and it makes your back numb. And I felt it, and it felt very warm, and it hurt a little bit. Of course, the needle going in felt like a needle going in anywhere else in your body. It's uncomfortable, but I mean, as long as you're not afraid of needles and stuff like that, I mean, you can get through it. And you can't see it, so you know, it's a lot easier to take when you're not staring at a needle go in your body. But so he puts the needle in my back, and I immediately feel like this very warm sensation in my back, but I felt it mostly on my left side of my body. And it was just like, ooh, that was weird. Like, it felt very weird. I don't really know how to compare that to anything else. Like, I know when you get a shot, you can feel like whatever they're putting in you go in your arm. It feels similar to that, but it was like a bigger area, and it was very warm. So that's what that felt like, and I believe that that was the numbing. And then he sticks the tube and everything else in my back, and sorry, she's waking up, but it's probably because I got this bright light on. But anyways, so then he sticks the tube in your back, and it's very skinny. It looks like a little wire, but you can see that it's a tube, and it also was kind of uncomfortable. But it wasn't that bad. And truthfully, I feel like the contractions, I was gonna say the contractions are worse feeling, but they're probably, in my experience, it was pretty even. The amount of pain the contraction caused and the amount of pain that it was getting the epidural in my back. Maybe not. I think the epidural was a little bit lower, but they both were very not painful. Hi, girl. Okay, but so I get my epidural, and they kind of tape it to your body so it doesn't move. And once you start feeling that numbness, it feels so funny. So like, I couldn't feel that my legs were numb, but I could feel that my toes were numb, and I was kind of like wiggling them, and it was very hard to wiggle my toes, and I'm like, this is weird. But your legs just eventually kind of feel like dead weight. My left leg ended up getting completely numb. Like I could not pick it up and I could not move it at all. And I feel like that has something to do with the fact that also when he put something in my back, it felt warm and toasty on the left side of my body. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe it just took more effect on the left side. But they have you lay a certain way so that the medicine can get like distributed evenly. So since my left side was more numb, they had me tilted more to my right so that my right side could get as numb, but truthfully it never did. But so as time is going on, I'm like getting closer and closer to birth. They ended up giving me the peanut, and I feel like she gonna want to get out in a second. But so they gave me the peanut, and I was like laying on my side and my legs were completely numb. But as my labor continued, my labor went really fast compared to most people's first labor. Most people be in labor for like 24 hours and stuff like that, but my labor was literally from 1 a.m. and I gave birth by almost 5. It was 4:56 when she actually came out. So hold on. So okay, so after the epidural, my legs was numb. I got my peanut, laid on the other side. Both legs was perfectly numb, but the right side did not get as numb as the left. I still could kind of like support my own leg and like move it when it was time, but every time as my labor progressed, I started feeling pressure. And it was not like intense amounts of pressure. It was literally a little bit of pressure, but it felt like something was pushing down in that area. So I started to kind of panic, and I'm like, okay, by that time it was probably 1. But every time I felt the pressure, I was clicking that epidural button because I'm like, I'm probably not close to labor, so let me just push this button because I feel like I'm feeling too much too soon. So I was pushing that button every 30 minutes because that's as often as you can press it. And I was pushing that button every 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes I was getting the extra epidural, which is why my legs was like dead. So by the time I was just feeling a lot of pressure, it was about 1 o'clock, and I called the nurse in, and I'm like, I feel a lot of pressure. Can you just check me and see how dilated I am? By 1 o'clock, I was already 9 and almost 10 centimeters, because she didn't even tell me that I was 9 centimeters. She's like, oh my gosh, you're almost 10 centimeters. We need to get you prepared. So I'm like, it's only been technically 12 hours of labor. I didn't think this would happen this fast. Like, what is going on? Sorry, let me turn that off. It was distracting me. But hi. But so I'm like, this is going really fast. I did not expect this and all this stuff. So when the nurse comes back in, they had set up the cart, you know, for you to give birth of everything the doctor is gonna need and stuff like that. And she came back in and she's like, okay, we're gonna push. And this was, they always make you push before the doctor comes in. So the doctor doesn't come in until the last minute. So I'm like, okay, let's see how far she gonna come out or whatever. So I'm pushing, and pushing. Honestly, I felt hurt worse than contractions, because I felt like my brain was gonna burst. Like, it wasn't the pain of pushing. Like, down there I couldn't feel nothing, but it was like my brain. And the doctor had came in previously to introduce herself, and she told us that, or she told me that when you push, you need to push like you're constipated, not like your stomach. Like, don't push with your upper stomach like you're doing a sit-up or something. You need to push like you're pooping, and use those muscles, because that's the same muscles that's gonna get your baby out. And the longer, or the more you use those muscles, the shorter the pushing is gonna be. So I took that into play, and I'm like, okay, cool. Push like I'm taking a dump. I could do that. And so I'm pushing like I'm taking a dump, and every time I push, like, for one, they count so slow when it's time to push. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. And I'm just like, this is, you're holding your breath because you're trying to push everything out of you. And it just felt like my brain was gonna bust. Like, and I made that comment, I don't know if y'all could have heard it in the video of me giving labor, but I was like, I feel like my brain is gonna, I said, I feel like I'm gonna pop a blood vessel in my brain or something, like, and that's literally what I felt like. But it had to be done, I guess, and it actually made my pushing go a lot faster. I ended up only pushing for a total, they said 10 minutes. I don't know how true that is, but it did feel pretty fast, but it did feel longer than 10 minutes. But that's, I guess, because I was the one doing the pushing. So time kind of like, you know, time is, you know, a little weary, or, you know, whatever, when it's you going through something. But so, yeah, so I pushed for 10 minutes. I used those muscles down there, my pelvic muscles, that's the word, and it went really fast. The whole time I was pushing, my mom and the doctors and the nurses were all like, oh, good job, like you did really good. Like her head, I think, kept like going out, and then of course when the contraction was over and I stopped pushing, it would kind of go back in, but it wasn't a lot. But I couldn't feel anything, not a thing. And shout out to the epidural for that, because if you're really borderline and you don't have any reason why you would want to be natural, just get the epidural. Nobody's gonna judge you. I mean, somebody might, but who cares? Hi. But yeah, it just, I don't know, I feel like if you're borderline, you're gonna tap out towards the end, and you might as well just get it anyways. Overall, I feel like my birth experience was very enjoyable. There was nothing bad that I can say about it. I mean, postpartum healing has been a little tricky, but I don't think that it's been bad. I believe I'm one of the ones who have it on the easier side of things, which is a blessing, because I feel like I went through so much during my pregnancy that it's like, it's about time I caught a break. Because if the whole entire process was just bad, I honestly probably would never do this again. Like, pregnancy was already bad for me, and I don't ever want to be pregnant again. But since birth was so easy, it kind of leaves me on the fence. Like, I could have another kid in 5 years, I could not, like, it just depends. But I would say I would go through labor and delivery 10 times over rather than being pregnant. If you never had to be pregnant, I would give birth to probably 10 kids, honestly, because for me it wasn't that bad. Now most women, maybe they don't feel the same, and that's completely fine, because we have different pregnancies, we have different labor and delivery, we have different bodies, and that's fine. But I'm just happy that I had a pleasant birth experience, because my pregnancy was so trash. Being pregnant, I wouldn't. I'm starting to forget what it was like being pregnant, so it's like making the decision to do it again a lot easier, but a lot longer down the line, like 5+ years, like 5 minimum years before I get pregnant again. But the birth experience, it was so pleasant. And honestly, it's funny because one of my friends, like I said, that was pregnant around the same time as me, she gave birth 2 months before me, and we were kind of discussing our little birth experiences, and she was like, she'd be pregnant again 10 times over and not do the birth thing, and I'd do the birth thing and not be pregnant again, which is so funny. But I feel like it's also because she didn't get an epidural. I don't know if she ended up getting one towards the end, but I know she had told me she wanted a natural birth. So I'm not sure. I kind of feel like I was told she did get an epidural towards the end, which is probably why her experience wasn't very good and mine was a whole entire different experience. But yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask, because I'll answer. You can DM me, you can comment under this video, and I will answer any questions or whatever, or leave your experience if you agree with me and you'd do birth 1,000 times rather than be pregnant, or maybe you had a pleasant experience both pregnancy and birth, or if you're not like me and you'd rather be pregnant than give birth. I'm curious to know, like, how many women out there can share my love of giving birth rather than being pregnant, which I can't say I loved it, but it was a lot easier than being pregnant for 9 months, and I could say that to me. But yeah, I know I've talked a lot in this video, so I'm gonna stop talking now. I'll be back with more videos, so make sure to subscribe and like this video and leave me a comment. If something falls, why do I hear noises? Yeah, leave me a comment of anything you would like to say, anything about my experience that you found funny or whatever. You can follow me on Instagram at lifeaslease, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Say bye, baby. She's not really gonna say bye, but she's perfect.